Good evening, everyone. In today's class, we have going with a new concept, new user-defined advanced Python concept, that is functions. So, how you are going to define a function, and you have to discuss the function in C, C++, Java, and all. So there will be two types of functions. One is calling function, that is inside the main, and called function outside the main. So declaration of calling function will be inside the main, and what the function will do, that means the definition of the function will be given outside the main. So how you are going to do that in the Python? So now we understand with the concepts of Python. So it remains same, remaining all the topics, but only some syntax changes. So changes in the format, how you are going to write, so that we will be representing here. So first you come for the topic defining functions. So what is the function will consist of, and there will be two functions, right? So first one, what we call calling function. So this statement will be inside the main. So invoke a function means invoke is nothing but call a function. So which is the function? Max is the function name, and x comma y are the two values what you are giving for the max function. So come for this one, definition of the function. So that we will be giving like that. Define max of num1 comma num2. So how many parameters you have taken here? X comma y. So that thing we are giving it as num1 and num2. Other than you can give it as x comma y also. But in order to refer these parameters as actual parameters inside the main, so these parameters are called as actual parameters, and this parameter which are used outside the main. So because the definition of the function should be given outside the main only, so there you can take same parameters x comma y, or you can give it as different parameter that we have taken it as num1 and num2. So these are called formal parameter. So this one we call it as function header, and this one we call it as a function body. So what is the function is going to do? Find the max of two numbers, that is num1 and num2. Okay, find the max and give the result. So how to check whether the two number one is greater than other? If num1 greater than num2, so num1 is greater than num2, the result is equal to num1. If condition false, the result is equal to num2. You are going to return the result. Understanding? So this is the, so what you call def. Def means function header. Max is the function name. What parameters you give, they are called formal parameters. So this is the function body. So similarly, you go with a invoking function. Max is the function name. X and Y are the actual parameters. Keep in your mind. Calling function will, what parameters you have, they are called as actual parameters, and the parameters what you give under called function, that is definition of the function, we call it as formal parameters. Okay, so finally you will be returning. So come for the next topic, creating a function. How you create? So creating a function, you take this one, def should be there, define add. Okay, so def add with set of statements. Okay, so same thing here, def add colon should come. So that marks it is a function definition. So colon printf add of function. This is the simple syntax to create a function. Now calling a function, so this one where you have created def add printf addition function, it is in the definition of the function. So now I call this particular function. So how you call this particular function? You take it as def add. So you give this one, what this part, this is called as a definition of the function. So this will be outside the main. Now calling the function, that is add, so we call it as it is the calling function which should be placed inside the main. Keep in your mind, this statement should be inside the main, whereas these two statements are the function definition and they are outside the main. So now you come for the arguments. So arguments I have already told you, there will be two types. So inside they come for this one. So coming for this one, these are called arguments. What you give the input for calling function, what you give input, they are called as actual parameters or arguments. Okay, so what you give outside the main, that is in definition of the function, they are called as formal parameters. Okay, so now you come for this particular arguments. So arguments you have taken it as add of a comma b, print addition function result a plus b. So this one you have taken. So this part is function definition. Now I call the function. Now I call the function add of 1 comma 2. So here in add of 1 comma 2, add is the function name. 1 comma 2 are the actual parameters. Arthama, you should understand this. So 1 comma 2 are the actual parameters, whereas a comma b are formal parameters, because a comma b are in the definition of the function, and of 1 comma 2 is a calling function which is placed inside the main. Okay, so it is only the declaration you are going to give. You are not finding anything else in add of 1 comma 2. Where you are finding it in add of a comma b. There in place of a, you will have the value 1. For in place of b, you will have the value 2, and that will be resulted. So number of arguments. So what happens? So suppose I have given the definition add of a comma b. So addition function result, this is for demo. So here you see how many arguments are there? 2 arguments. So how many values you should give? You should give 1 comma 2, that is 2 arguments is to be given. So now you come for this particular one. If you try to call the function with 1 or 3 arguments, so keep in your mind, well, in definition, how many arguments are there here? 2 arguments. Suppose if you give add of 1, can this be possible? This one cannot be possible, because if you have taken here add of a comma b, how many arguments are there? 2 arguments. If you give 1 also, it will not take. If you give 3 also, it will not take, because 2 arguments are required here. Okay, so now you come for the new concept, arbitrary arguments, star args. Okay, so arbitrary arguments means, so this is the new concept, we are going to use it in Python. So it doesn't support in C, C++, wherever. So it is the newly derived concept for Python. So if you do not come for this particular sentence, you will understand. If you do not know how many arguments that will be passed into our function, so add a star before the parameter name in the definition. So come for here. So if you give how many arguments, if you don't know how many arguments you are going to give, so you can take it as star. Add a star before the parameter name in the function definition. So in the function definition, you have to add a star. So if you are not supposed to know how many values it is going to take, so what you will do, you will add a star. So give it a star args. So okay, this function, this way the function will receive a tuple of arguments, can access it. So see here, so I have called a function, but this is definition of the function, argument, arbitrary arguments function, star nums. Okay, star nums. So now star nums will go for, so keep on giving star nums means how many arguments you don't know. At that time, you are going with the star nums. So print, you will give the definition what it should do. The third number you have to print. Okay, so similarly, you are going to have a function 23, 34, 45. So what is the third value? So third number is 45. You will be getting the value as third number is 45. Okay, so now you come for the keyword arguments. So here you have gone with what? Only one. So star nums means only one value. Okay, suppose if you want to go for keyword arguments, that means if you want to give the values directly. Okay, so if you want to give the values directly, then you go with a new concept, keyword arguments. Understanding? So rather than going for directly args, so if you want to store each and every value, okay, so in different variables, so at that time I will go with the keyword arguments. You can also use this, you can also send arguments with key value syntax. Key value syntax. Understanding what I am telling? So here You see here. So in this example, you can only take only one name. Okay. So that means star. If you give star nums, what happens? So nums of 0 give one value. Nums of 1 will give one value. Nums of 2. So what is the variable name? Variable name is nums only, but location is keep on changing. Understanding? So the nums of 0 will contain 23, nums of 1 will contain 34, nums of 2 will contain 45. So each and every value is having the same name. Okay, suppose if you want to go for the different names with different values, so go with the keyword arguments. Understood? By using key value syntax. For example, you can take it. So each and everything you have to give with a different names, right? So there you take it as n1, n2, n3. Okay, so similarly you have the print statement, that is n3, and you can assign the value like this. So there you have taken it as 24, 23, 34, 45. Now I can take it as n1 is equal to 23, n2 is equal to 34, and n3 is equal to 45. So all the variables are having different names, right? So if all the variables are having different names, n3, n1, and n2, so these are called as a keyword arguments here. Okay, so now you come for both arbitrary keyword arguments as well as arbitrary keyword arguments star star kw. Kw means keyword args. Okay, so now you come for this particular thing. So arbitrary keyword arguments. So what is the meaning of arbitrary? So all the variables will have same name. Okay, so suppose if you want the keywords using arbitrary, so keyword means each and everyone will have different value, but arbitrary keyword means what will happen we shall see here. Okay, so in arbitrary arguments what you will have, each and every variable will have same name, whereas in keyword arguments what you will have, each and every variable will have different names. So similarly when you go with arbitrary keyword arguments, so what will happen? Okay, so if you do not know how many keyword arguments, so if you don't know how many keyword arguments are that will be passed into this, add two asterisk before the parameter name. Add two asterisks before the parameter name. Suppose if you are known with n1, n2, n3, you don't know how many values it is going to take. Suppose n1 to n100. At that time, you can go with the arbitrary keyword arguments. Understanding? So what the arbitrary keyword arguments will tell? So it is, if you don't know how many keyword arguments, so keep in your mind the arbitrary. So keyword arguments. So if you don't know how many keyword arguments you are going to pass, so at that time, so you can go with a two asterisk. So two asterisks before the parameter name. So this will receive a dictionary of arguments and access the item. So keep in your mind, I am taking arbitrary key argument function star num. So star num will represent arbitrary keyword arguments. So that will take n number of values. So printf the third number, you would give it as nums of n1. So nums of n1 means, so there you can go with this value. So give the same syntax, arbitrary key argument n3, n1 and n2. Understood? So that is the meaning of arbitrary. So now you come for the next one, default parameter value. Okay. If we call a function, so calling function, okay, don't get confused with calling and called. So if we call a function means we are giving the value, okay. So if we call a function without argument, it uses a default value. Suppose you see the program here, def function num is equal to 350, print the number is. So similarly you call def1 of 23, what it will print? The number is 23. Def1 of 34, what it will print? Number is 34. Similarly when you call def1, define default function. So at that time, if no values are given here, what it will print? It will print the number is 350. So that means if we call a function without any parameter, then it uses a default value if it is given. So come for next one, passing a list as an argument. What is list? So list is a group of elements, okay, which are mutable, which can be changed, okay, ordered, ordered changeable elements. So that one we call it as a list. Okay, now we pass a list as an argument. So list is there, that list will be passed as an argument for a function. So list should be an input for the function. What is the list we have taken? SNO is the list that consists of values 34, 45 and 23. So all these values, now this list is being given as an argument for a function. So define RNO of nums I have taken. So RNO is the function name, nums is the, what type of parameter can you tell? So nums comes under formal parameter. Keep in your mind, you are having a def function here. So def means you are coming for a definition of the function. So what is the definition of the function? It will give what the function will do, and that will be given outside the main. Understood? So RNO of nums, print the roll numbers, common nums. So under SNO, I will create a list. So then I pass it for RNO of SNO, the roll number, sorry, it will print all the values that are stored. So this is the logic to pass and list as an argument for a function. So what is the list? SNO is the list which consisting of 34, 45 and 54, 23, and these values are given as actual parameters for a function named RNO, and all these actual parameters are placed in the formal parameter nums, and nums is going to print each and every roll number here. Understood? So now you come for the next one, return values. So where you will get the return values? So once the function will find the answer, so that will be returned from called function to calling function. So where is calling function? Calling function is inside the main. So from calling function, the control will move to called function. Once the called function is executed, the final result will be returned from called function to calling function. So understood. So for that one, I am taking this one. So what is this? Definition of the function, that is, it is a called function. So def grace marks of num, return 2 plus num. Okay, so return where it is returning. So it will return 2. It will read this return 2 plus num. So 2 plus num will be returned here. Okay, so 2 plus num, what is the value you have given? N is equal to grace marks of 34. So the 34, what is the num? 34 is the actual parameter. Grace marks is the function name. This is the calling function. So where you find the word def, that is the called function. ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, def ಅನ್ನೋ ವರ್ಡ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೋ, def means defining. So definition where you are specifying what it should do. So that will define return 2 plus num. Okay, so if you are given it as 34, return 2 plus 34. So num is the formal parameter, 34 is the actual parameter. So return of 2 plus num will return a value 2 plus 34. 36 will be returned here, and that will be stored where? In n. So finally you are printing the value of n, that is 36. So now you come for the next, pass. So okay, so if a function definition does not contain any statement, that means no content is given, so simply we put a pass statement to avoid getting an error. So keep in your mind, so definition of the function should return some value. Okay, so if that value is not been returned, or if you are not specifying what code to write, simply you would type pass. Okay, so that is the for that is a past statement. If the function definition does not contain any statement to execute and return the value, then you write the past statement. So function definition cannot be empty. But if you have some reason, I have a function definition with no content, put in the past statement to avoid getting error. So you function definition, if you are not getting any code to insert, but you want it to execute, what you will write? You will write the past statement. Okay, so next you come for the code that is recursion. So recursion, can you tell what is recursion? That is one of the application we are going with the functions. So recursion means any function which is called by itself. So any function which is called by itself, it is called as a recursive function. So keep in your mind what is recursion. So any function which is calling by itself, it is called as a recursion or recursive function. Okay, so it is one of the topic what we are discussing with functions. Okay, so now what is the thing? So function will call itself. So that is called as a recursion here. So for example, I have taken it as this part, what I have marked here, else part up to here is the function definition. So this one is calling function and we are printing the final value. Okay, so always the execution will start from where? It will start from the calling function. For that you have given it as n is equal to fact of 4. So what is fact is fact is the function name. This is calling function. Fact is the function name and 4 is the parameter, that is actual parameter what you are giving. When you call this function, the control will move to where? To the called function, that is it will go there. So function name is fact, num is equal to 4. So first condition, if num double equals 1, return 1. What is the num value? So num we are having a value 4. So 4 double equals 1, condition false. At that time return num 4 star fact of 4 minus 1. So remember here return fact star. Again you are calling a function fact. So where this function it is inside the fact. So this statement what you are going to execute, it is inside the fact only. So for that you call it as this statement is going to call the same function fact again. So that's why we call it as recursion. So here inside the fact only you are having this again fact function. Understood? For that purpose we are taking it as so any function which is calling itself. So this fact function only is calling this particular fact. So return fact 4 star fact of 3. So now you have to find what? Fact of 3. So now what is num value? When you go for this execution, 4 star fact of 3. What is 3? 3 is the value. So num contains 3. 3 double equals 1, condition false. So return 4 star, 3 star, 2. So finally all the values will be printed, stored, return. When you give return, it will return from where? It will return to the calling function. So which is the calling function? Fact of 4 is the calling function. And if you give the value, that will be printed in N. Understood? So this is recursion. So now you come for the new concept, references. So refer, what is the meaning of, can you tell what is refer? So refer means you are referring, you are pointing to some other. Okay, so that is the point. So refer means it is the meaning of pointing. So come for the concept. When we create an object and assign it to a variable, variable only refers to an object and does not represent object itself. So at that time, the variable name points to that pointer of our computer memory where the object is stored. So this is called as a binding of the name. So that I will explain clearly with this one. So take this particular program. So taking this particular program, first all parameters in Python are passed by reference only, are passed by reference. Okay, so it means if you change what a parameter refers to, the value also reflects back in the calling function. So keep this one in your mind. So now we on. So what is the definition? Function name, change me of my list. Okay, so they are called, this changes a passed list, that is my list dot append of 1 2 3 4 you have given. Okay, so what are the values you are giving here? Kindly see here, my list. So then this is the calling function. So this one is called function. So you start with a main only. So where the main, the calling function is called as a main. This is calling function, my list, change me print, and this one is called function. Okay. So now you start from where? My list. So my list is equal to what you have, 10, 20, 30. This is a list. So now you call change me of my list. So change me of my list. So what the my list is containing? 10, 20, 30. So change me is the function name. Okay. So for that you are having the word my list dot append of 1, 2, 3, 4. So what is the meaning of append? Add the contents after the end of my list. So append means adding the elements after the completion of my list. So actually what is my list is containing? 10, 20, 30. So append means what you will get? Now after 10, 20, 30, you will be appending 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So values inside this function, now you print my list. So print values inside the function, that you will be getting it as 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So similarly, you are going with a return. So return means it will come to where? It will come from called function to calling function. So change me. Now it will print values outside the function. Again it will print the same thing. As you have taken my list here, so as you give the word written here, the values which are there in the my list here, that will be returned to the calling function. Keep see the mouse here, I'm pointing to. So once the values are printed of my list, you are returning. So return what? Return the my list. So from my list, from here it is pointed to here. Again when you go with the print outside the function, because it is inside the called function, this is outside the function. Outside the function you will be getting the same thing. Okay, so this is pass by reference versus pass by value. So what are the values you are having? Pass by reference, you are referring to one more list, that is my list. So this is the concept you are having. Understood? I think you all understood with this particular concept, right? So next we shall, this particular video will end it here, that is Python functions. Next you go with the Python strings. Okay, so I hope you understand. In tomorrow's class we will go with the hands-on sessions on Python functions. Okay, I hope you understood, work through the exercise, work through this particular syntax and learn something. Okay, so I'll be ending this particular session here. Okay, okay, thank you. Learn, so be a Pythonic.